By using a regular select statement, let's look at all of the records of the management training table. We see our 7 records. The first line of this statement is a select star. The second line of this statement is from management training. If we select these lines one at a time, the query doesn't run. We need both of these lines in order to run. So let's put these 2 lines of code into one statement and execute it. Declare a variable called @select, which is an nvarchar 50 that is equal to select star, which means basically the first line of the query. And the next one is declare @from as an nvarchar 50, and that will be equal to from management training. Let's show what these 2 lines look like together by doing a print of the @select variable added to the @from variable. Let's run these 3 lines. It says select all fields from management training. This message is basically the same as this query, so how do we get it to run dynamically? Well, simply change the word print to exec. Now select the same 3 lines again. The result set shows us it ran the query. How is this handy? Let's say we wanted to query from a different table. We can change the second variable to from employee. Now we're getting the employee table. In other words, we can change one variable and completely change what type of query it's running. Well, Dynamic SQL is pretty cool, but you gotta do it correctly. With these 2 statements, it's pretty easy to tell what we're trying to do. The first one says, give me all the records from the management training table. And the second one says, select star from, and then we're obviously adding management training to that query. But that doesn't work. You need to be able to put it all into a string and execute it, or it needs to be all object-based. It can't be a mixture at the time that you run it. So let's fix this. Let's open a new query window, and let's declare the @tableName variable and set it to a varchar 50. Let's go ahead and set the value of that variable to management training. The mistake we made last time was we wrote a regular select statement that wasn't dynamic, and then we added the string as part of the name. Let's just show you again that this doesn't work. It's the same problem we had before and the same error message when we tried to do the previous query with the hard-coded string. We know that doesn't work. In order to make it work, we've got to make all parts of our query into a string and then add them together. So we've got a table name, but we don't have a variable to hold the first part of the query. So let's declare an @query and set that as an nvarchar 50. And let's set the @query variable to be equal to the same thing as the first part of the query, which is select star from. Now all we have to do is put the query and the table together and execute them together. Replace the select star from table name portion of the query with the @query variable plus the @tablename variable with the execute statement. Let's run this. As you can see, it ran successfully. Let's create a general query stored procedure that basically generally queries any table you want. If you pass in employee, it will query the employee table. If you pass in location, it will query from the location table. And if you pass in management training, it will query from the management training table. Let's create this stored procedure by typing create proc general query. We'll ask for an @tablename variable, and we'll make that a varchar of up to 50 in length, and we'll go as select star from, and then concatenate the @tablename. Now you probably remember this isn't going to work because we can't concatenate a string with the actual objects. Well, if we were to call on this stored procedure, we'd call on it by the query name, and let's say that we're passing in management training. It's not going to work yet because we haven't created the stored procedure properly. In order to do that, let's go ahead and declare a variable named @SQL, which will be an nvarchar 1000, and we will set this @SQL variable to be equal to Select star from as a string, concatenated with the @table name variable. Now we'll simply go execute @SQL in the set of parentheses. Let's run this create stored procedure statement. Commands completed successfully. Now we can execute the general query stored procedure by passing in management training. Well, let's try another table. Let's try passing in location to the same stored procedure. And there's the location table. Lab 3.1, Skill Check 1. You are given the following code seen here. In the JProCode database, you need the general database stored procedure to create any database name that you pass into the @dbName parameter. Replace the comment with the correct dynamic SQL statement. Create the general database stored procedure and test by creating the Skill Check CH3 database. When you're done, your screen should resemble the figure you see here. Skill Check 2. You are given the following code. In the JProCode database, you need the drop general database stored procedure to drop a database if it exists based on the database name that you pass into the @dbName parameter. Replace the comment with the correct dynamic SQL statement. Create the drop general database stored procedure and test by dropping the Skill Check CH3 database. When you're done, your screen should resemble the figure you see here. Skill Check 3. You are given the following code. Declare the @list variable so it runs for employee 1 and 2 and execute the @SQL query. When you are done, your screen should resemble the figure you see here.